We want to listen to Hillary Clinton right now on the right side of your screen. She is speaking in Tampa, Florida right now. Let's listen live.
Childcare affordable. No family should have to pay more than 10% of your income on childcare. And right now, you have a lot of states where it costs more for childcare than tuition at college and university. So I know you've got childcare here, but as I told the president, I want to do more to help you to make sure every student parent has a safe place to bring their child while they're studying and working and trying to get their education. And then we're going to help everybody with student debt. How many of you have student debt? We're going to help you pay it back and pay it off quickly. We're going to get the interest rates down. We're going to give you new ways of paying it. Because right now we have too many people laboring under student debt in a way that holds your own futures back. So we're going to lift that burden off of you. And we're also going to make sure you can get quality, affordable health care. Every age you are, every place you are. We're going to get the costs down, premiums, co-pays, deductibles, and especially prescription drug costs. And there are two other things we're going to take on, because I've heard about this all across America. We're going to take on helping more people with mental health and addiction problems get the help you need. So I'm excited about what we can do to create an economy, an education, and healthcare system that works. And while we do it, we're going to be protecting the rights of Americans, all Americans. We have fought too hard. We have come too far. And that means civil rights. And it means women's rights and gay rights and voter rights and workers' rights and disability rights. And you know, I believe with all my heart, because I've done this work my entire life. I was looking at the disability sign there. My first job out of law school was with the Children's Defense Fund. I did a lot of interesting things. And one of them was to gather evidence about why so many kids with disabilities were out of school. There was no requirement that you went to school if you were blind, deaf, in a wheelchair. And we changed the law, the first nation in the world to do that. And I am so proud of our country. So these rights are not for somebody else. We all know somebody. We all know a woman. We all know somebody in a racial or ethnic minority. We all know a worker or a voter. We all know a gay person. And we all know somebody with a disability. These are our rights. And the kinds of things that you've been hearing from Donald Trump, demeaning, defaming groups of Americans, people who have every right to be respected by someone who wants to be president of the United States, and he stands there and mocks a reporter with a disability, and he calls women pigs, and he calls Mexican immigrants rapists and criminals, and he demeans Muslims and attacks a Gold Star family whose son died in action in Iraq. That's not who we are. So yes, we have a lot of plans, but we also have values, my friends, and we're going to stand up for American values. Our book also outlines how we're going to keep our country safe from all threats. We're going to work with our allies, not insult them. We're going to stand up to our adversaries, not cozy up to them. We're going to have real plans, not claims and secret plans. This November, the American people have a big choice to make when it comes to national security. On the one hand, we have Donald Trump, who has called the American military a disaster, who disrespects our military leaders by saying, and I quote, "I know more about ISIS than the generals do." His companies, and listen to this, because I know there are a lot of veterans and a lot of active duty people based here in Tampa. His companies, Trump companies, have fired veterans because they had to take time off to fulfill their military commitments. And we all saw him disparage the Khans, a Gold Star family who lost their son in a car bomb explosion in Iraq, as he ran toward it to prevent the loss of life of the people in his unit and saving hundreds of his fellow soldiers. And when asked why he would insult a Gold Star family, he suggested that his sacrifices are somehow comparable to theirs. Because he said, and again I quote, you can't make this up. He said, I work very, very hard. I've had tremendous success. His whole campaign has been one long insult to all those who've worn the uniform to protect our most cherished American values. And a man who is so wrong about our veterans isn't right to serve as our commander-in-chief. And when it comes to fighting ISIS, he has been all over the map. You would have to literally map it out. He's talked about letting Syria become a free zone for ISIS. Look at the map, Donald. He's talked about sending in American ground troops. Not on my watch. That is not what we are going to do. He's even talked about using nuclear weapons. He's very loose in his talk about nukes. He says he doesn't care if other countries get them, doesn't know why they haven't been used already. I mean, it's so mind-boggling. When I hear these things, I say that can't be true. And then they replay it for me again. He says he has a secret plan to defeat ISIS. But the secret is he has no plan. After all his talk, the only thing that is clear is he has no clue about what he's talking about. And rather than work with our allies, he chooses to insult them. Just last week, in a few hours, he managed to turn his trip to Mexico into an embarrassing international incident. He got into a Twitter war with the president of Mexico. He is temperamentally unfit and totally unqualified to be president of the United States. As president, I have a very different vision. I will give our military everything they need when they're serving overseas. I will support them with care and the benefits that they need and deserve when they come back home, including job training and mental health care. I will work closely with our allies, not just to contain ISIS, but defeat them. First, we're going to take out their stronghold in Iraq and Syria. Second, we're going to dismantle their global terror infrastructure on the ground and online. Third, we're going to bolster our defenses, including with an intelligence surge, to protect us and our allies. We will do whatever is necessary for as long as it takes to bring ISIS to justice and end their reign of terror once and for all. And I will tell you this, I am a very patient person. I don't quit. I don't give up. I don't blink. This Sunday will be the 15th anniversary of the attack of 9/11. I was a senator from New York. I knew people who were killed. I worked with families and the few survivors. I worked to get the health care needed by our first responders and emergency workers who ran toward danger. I worked to make our country safer and to rebuild New York and the Pentagon. But I always was determined to do anything I could to bring bin Laden to justice. And thanks to the very patient, painstaking work of the American intelligence community, finally, when I was Secretary of State, we were given the opportunity to evaluate the best evidence we had seen in a long time. And I was honored to be part of that small group in the Situation Room advising President Obama as we went through the evidence over and over and over again, trying to decide, was it credible enough, strong enough to take action? And if we did, what kind of action? Would it be a missile strike? Would it be a bombing? Would it be an attack by special forces? And when it came time to go around the table, these were all extremely experienced, thoughtful experts. We all gave our opinions. I was one who said, I thought it was worth the risk. And I was... And I was in that small Situation Room on that day. You all know the story. Some of you read the book, some of you have seen the movies, but there's one thing I want to tell you because it demonstrates, again, what our values are as Americans. Remember, Donald Trump has said he would order American troops to torture. He would order American troops to murder family members of terrorists. That's what he has said. Heedless of the consequences that would lead to in terms of putting Americans all over the world at even greater risk. But here's what happened that night in Pakistan. And this is not an often told part of the story. So I want to tell you, particularly the young people here, particularly active duty and military veterans like Mary. If you saw any of the reenactment, you know that one of the helicopters clipped its tail as it was going into the courtyard on the wall. It disabled that helicopter. Now, thankfully, every contingency had been thought through. And so we were prepared for that. The military was prepared. They could get another helicopter there to take out the SEALs who were going to have to blow up the disabled helicopter. After rushing into the compound, taking out the 2 bodyguards, taking out bin Laden's adult son, taking out bin Laden, they knew they had to get out of there. At any time, there could have been Pakistani military wondering, what's going on? Something's happening. And this was a military garrison town. So time was really precious. But here's what the SEALs did. Before they blew that helicopter up, they took out all the women and children, family members of terrorists, including the worst terrorist of all. They took them out of the compound, around the back to safety before they blew that helicopter up. That, Donald Trump, is what American honor looks like. I want to mention just 3 other threats. One threat here right at home, the epidemic of gun violence. And we have got to have comprehensive background checks, close the gun show loophole, close the online loophole, and the ability of people on the terrorist watch list buying a gun in America. This agenda I've just briefly outlined is supported by a vast majority of Americans and a vast majority of American gun owners. And it's time we all said in one voice, hey, we can respect the Second Amendment, we can respect the right to own arms, but we don't want people who shouldn't have guns in the first place killing anybody else ever again. Another threat to our country is climate change. 2015 was the hottest year on record, and the science is clear. It's real, it's wreaking havoc on communities across America. Last week's hurricane was another reminder of the devastation that extreme weather can cause, and I send my thoughts and prayers to everyone affected by Hermine. But this is not the last one that's going to hit Florida, given what's happening in the climate. Nobody knows that better than folks right here in Tampa and in the broader region. Sea levels have been rising here about an inch per decade since the 1950s. At the rate we are going, by 2030, which is not that far away, $70 billion of coastal property in this state will be flooding at high tide. And whenever our infrastructure is threatened, so too is our homeland security. The next president will have to work with communities like Tampa's to prepare for future storms. When I'm in the Oval Office, I'm going to work with local leaders to make smart investments in infrastructure to help protect regions from flooding and other effects of climate change. I'm going to continue to work on the international and national level to try to turn the clock back, to stabilize and reduce emissions even more, to try to gain more time. But we're going to have to begin working immediately on mitigation and resilience and prevention as well. And what about Donald Trump? Well, he doesn't even believe in climate change. He says it's a hoax invented by the Chinese. And he says, quote, "You can't get hurt with extreme weather." Now, this is the same guy who at one of his golf courses in some coastal place has demanded that a seawall be built to protect his golf course from rising tides. So it's all fine if it affects Donald, but if it affects the rest of humanity, he could care less. If it affects people who lose their homes or their businesses that took a lifetime to build, doesn't matter to him. When it comes to protecting our country against natural disasters and the threat of climate change, once again, Donald Trump is totally unfit and unqualified to be our president. And let's not forget, the next president also has to keep our country safe from public health crises like Zika. It's painfully obvious we can't rely on the Republican Congress or Republican governors to fund an adequate response. They can't help themselves from playing games even when lives are on the line. I call on all Republicans to put people before politics and finally vote in favor of a clean funding bill to fight Zika right here in Florida. But the failure of the Republicans in Congress, including your Republican senator, means that we can't always count on them, can we? So last month, I announced that as president, I will create a public health rapid response fund to be available when emergencies occur, to have a consistent budget to better enable government agencies at all levels to quickly respond to major public health crises and pandemics. This will complement our efforts to prepare our country to deal with those challenges. And because of climate change, we're going to have more of them. Because of mobility around the world, you can get on a plane in Africa and bring Ebola to the United States. You can be a mosquito in Brazil and make your way to Florida. We've got to be better prepared. It's always better to invest a penny in the front end than to have to pay many dollars after the crisis has already occurred. That's why it is time that when we talk about protecting public health, to put politics aside. and put our people's needs first. Now, I'm excited about doing all of this with you, for you, on your behalf, but I can't do it without you. And here's what I'm asking. The deadline to register voters is October 11th. If any of you are not registered, or you're not sure you are registered, or you're a student and you're registered somewhere else, but it would be more convenient to vote here, you have until October 11th. So please learn how to register. You can go to iwillvote.com and learn how to do that. You can go to my website, hillaryclinton.com, and learn how to do that. We're also building volunteer teams. So you can get involved by going to hillaryclinton.com or text JOIN, J-O-I-N, to 47246. Or you can sign up here today. Are there people with clipboards somewhere around here? On the way out, I guess. You can sign up here today to have a volunteer registration shift. And you can also apply, if you're really interested, to our Get Out the Vote Fellowship Program. We're going to organize special groups to get people to the polls, and we need you. This state has so much promise, and I want to be the best president that you could possibly have in Florida. I want to work on all of these issues, everything that's in this blueprint that we have published. And I want particularly to give the young people of this university, this state, this country, the best shot you can have to be part of the American dream, however you define that. Many of us who came before know that there were barriers in the way. When I was a young woman, there were schools I couldn't go to, jobs I couldn't get, scholarships I wasn't eligible for, just because I was a woman. And a lot of those barriers have been knocked down. For every African American, Latino, Asian American, Native American, gay American, you know that barriers have been knocked down, but they're not all down. And we got to make sure they're all gone, and that no demagogue can ever bring them back and can ever exploit the fears and insecurities of the American people. So please, vote this year like your future depends on it, because it does. And if you give me the great honor of serving as your president, I will get up every single day in that White House, and I will work my heart out for those better jobs, better educational opportunities, better health care with quality and affordability, protecting our rights, protecting our country, unifying America. Because we need to be the United States, not the divided states of America. And yes, remember, as that sign over there says, I believe this too. Love trumps hate. Let's have a future that proves that's true. Thank you all. God bless you.
And good afternoon, everyone. I'm Kate Snow. We've been listening to Hillary Clinton in Tampa, Florida. Right before that, you heard from Donald Trump in Virginia Beach. It's 9 weeks from today. It might sound like an eternity, particularly when you're talking about this election season. But now that Labor Day is over, it is crunch time. Both candidates gearing up for the Commander-in-Chief Forum tomorrow right here on MSNBC. Then, 2.5 weeks from now, we find out when the State Department will be releasing more Clinton emails. That news expected on the same day as early voting begins in some places. And then the first debate is just a few days after that. Before you know it, it's going to be November 8th. So what is happening today? Right now, a lot, actually. There's plenty to get you caught up on. And because we are the place for politics, we've got reporters on the trail with both campaigns, bringing you all the latest developments in this final stretch to Election Day. Let's begin the hour with the Clinton campaign and NBC's Casey Hunt in Tampa, where we just heard Hillary Clinton speak. Casey, hi.
Hey, Kate, we did, in fact, hear Hillary Clinton speak in Tampa, Florida, after getting off of her plane, having spent about 20 minutes talking to the reporters who traveled down here with her. So we've seen quite a strategy shift from Hillary Clinton just in the last couple of days. We'll see if it holds out. She took quite a few questions. I haven't had a chance to do the math, but I'd like to add up all the other minutes she spent doing press conferences with the last 2 days, because I think it would stack up pretty significantly. But Clinton here offering a focus on national security, but really in the context of a standard stump speech. She was a little more conversational than she sometimes is in these stump speeches, but overall making the case that Donald Trump is of the United States. And I think we may have a quick comment from her, a section of her speech where she talks about specifically his credentials to be commander-in-chief. Take a look and see if we have that.
Just last week, in a few hours, he managed to turn his trip to Mexico into an embarrassing international incident. He got into a Twitter war with the president of Mexico. He is temperamentally unfit and totally unqualified to be president of the United States.
So that's an argument we can expect her to continue to make at that commander-in-chief forum set for tomorrow right here on NBC and MSNBC. But I think if you take a step back here for a second, think about the dynamics at play, especially in these final couple of 9 weeks, as you said. Donald Trump has shown that he has the ability to generate so much earned media coverage that some Democrats that I talk to say they have to battle that on the airwaves. It's part of why they've been so aggressive in being up airing TV ads in these key places. And so for Hillary Clinton, staying in the mix of that every day is important. I think that could be something that's contributing to the fact that she's out there doing more of these press conferences. We've also seen these polls tighten. You saw the new CNN poll out this morning that actually shows Donald Trump ahead. The Clinton campaign working very hard to push back against that. Most other polls still showing her with albeit narrower lead. But there is this tendency, of course, for voters to use party identification as the ultimate reason behind their vote, and that means that it's likely to be closer than it has been, and Team Clinton needs to work to make sure they stay on top of that, Kate.
All right, Casey Hunt with the Clinton campaign. Casey, thanks so much. Clinton talking commander-in-chief in Tampa. Donald Trump doing the same in Virginia Beach. Minutes from the largest Navy base in the world, the one over in Norfolk, Virginia. Jacob Rascone was there for the town hall. He joins me now. And Jacob, what was Trump's main line of attack?
If you had to choose a main line of attack out of today, it would be from him that we have incompetent, weak leaders. He said that repeatedly. He said that same thing over the last several months, of course, pointing to Clinton, but also talking about Kerry and Obama in reference to the Iran deal, even in reference, for example, to China recently. When President Obama landed and the stairs were not brought out, he said, we were embarrassed, we should have left. He said the same thing about Cuba and Saudi Arabia, pointing to various examples of that. It seemed that in almost every answer, he found a way to say the word incompetent when talking about world leaders. He was also asked several times about something related to ISIS, and he found a way in one of his answers to talk about Putin, Russia, and Clinton. Here's what he said.
Russia, Hillary likes to play tough with Russia. Putin looks at her and he laughs, okay? He laughs. Putin looks at Hillary Clinton and he smiles. Boy, would he like to see her. That would be easy. Because just look at her decisions. Look how bad her decisions have been. Virtually every decision she's made has been a loser. But wouldn't it be nice, honestly, because Russia doesn't like ISIS any better than we do. Wouldn't it be nice if we actually got along with Russia and you could knock them out together? Wouldn't that be a good thing?
So again, repeating, wouldn't it be nice if we were friends with Russia? The entire town hall, I would say, was light on specifics. He skirted a couple of answers, including when he was asked directly about whether he supports regime change in Syria. He said, we have a problem. It's called ISIS. He talked about how Assad and Russia were going against ISIS and didn't answer the question. He did point at one point to his 10-point plan on his website about Veterans Affairs and told people they could go look at that if they wanted some specifics. Kate?
All right, Jacob Rascon with the Trump campaign. Did we mention yet that it is 9 weeks until Election Day? For some analysis, I'm joined now by Bloomberg managing editor John Heilman. He's co-anchor of With All Due Respect. John, nice to see you as always.
Hey, Kate, how are you?
Okay, I'm great, thank you. Hope you had a great end of summer. Here we are. First question. You're Trump's campaign manager with 9 weeks to go. What are you telling him today?
Oh, my God.
Easy one.
You're going to make me be Donald Trump's campaign manager. Well, I'm telling him that that reports of his death are exaggerated, and that the discussions coming out of the Democratic convention, where it looked like Hillary Clinton was pulling away to the kind of lead that might be totally insurmountable, are not true. I'd be pointing him to new polling that suggests that the race is tightening. But I'd be also cautioning him to not get overconfident and not get in a position where he thinks somehow like he still doesn't have a huge amount of work to do. We look at the recent polling, the polling we've seen this morning from the NBC SurveyMonkey polling, the CNN poll, the big Washington Post online national poll, and you'd say, look, the battleground is still very much tilted in Hillary Clinton's favor, but there's a path here, if we're focused and disciplined, that we might be able to walk.
Yeah, and we're going to be looking at that battleground map in just a moment with Mark Murray. But, okay, now you know what's coming. I'm going to change your job. Now you're Clinton's campaign manager. Yeah. What does she need to do in the coming weeks?
Well, I think, you'd be saying to Hillary Clinton, you've been focused a lot on these presidential debates that are coming up. You should keep focusing on them. Really important for you to do well, indeed to win that first presidential debate against Donald Trump. Take him seriously, keep preparing. And I'd be telling her that, having done her first gaggle in a while on her newly launched press charter that she's flying on yesterday, that she's pretty good at those things. She did another one today. And I'd say, look, I know you've been hesitant about meeting the press, but you're very practiced and you're very accomplished at this. They won't bite you. And by doing this, you look like you're being accessible and open and candid, and that we should stay on this path and keep taking these questions, because when you do take questions, you do fine.
I was going to ask you about that, because for reporters, we've all been talking about this for weeks now, that it's been so long since she had a formal press conference. Does she need to do a more formal press conference, or is it enough that she just comes back on the back of the plane every couple days?
I think it's a little weird to ask nominees to do formal press conferences. It's not that common, to have like a formal press conference. They're not president of the United States yet, either one of them. I think it's just important that they meet with their traveling press, because those are the people who cover the candidates, who know them best, and are likely to ask the sharpest and smartest questions and hold them accountable. I think that's important for voters. And as I say, I think candidates benefit when they take questions from their press corps and answer them well. And I think both these candidates are confident people, perfectly capable of dealing with us and all of our pesky questions. And I think both candidates should make it a routine thing to talk to those reporters who follow them around day in, day out.
And I apologize for all the hypotheticals today, but I'm going to ask you one last one. If you were Matt Lauer tomorrow night and you're hosting the Commander-in-Chief Forum, where we have both candidates back to back, what do you think the one area that needs to be explored is in that vein, in terms of military and veterans affairs?
Wow. Kate, you just asked me to pretend to be Donald Trump's campaign manager.
I know,
Hillary
right?
Clinton's.
And now Matt Lauer. Come on.
I don't mind doing either one of those things, but you're going to ask me to be Matt Lauer? That is a job way above my pay grade.
But the point is, what needs to be explored in that subject area? What do they need to talk about more that we're not hearing from the candidates?
Well, look, I think both of these both candidates have been talking about national security and foreign affairs a fair amount. But in the end, America remains a country at war, and we continue to have troops that are out fighting on our behalf all over the world. I think, for a country that is war-weary, and for a country that has seen so many of its young men and women go out and fight over the course of the last decade, I think for the families who might have to have their children go and fight in the future, I think we need to understand from both these candidates where they think, what the standards are by which they make a judgment about when it's worth and in America's interest to go and put our children, our collective children, put their lives on the line. And I think those are Donald Trump has tried to put himself in some ways to Hillary Clinton's left on national security issues. Hillary Clinton is regarded as being maybe more interventionist and maybe a little bit more conservative in that sense. Some people even call her a neocon. I don't think that's fair, but I think it would be good in this setting to press them both about what are the circumstances in which you commit American troops. Where in the world do they belong now? Where can we use fewer of them? And what would be the circumstances in the future under which you think it would be appropriate to go to war and make that gravest decision that an American president ever faces?
John Heilman, thanks so much, as always, for your time. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Kate.
And be sure to catch his